with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is...
I was afraid, I didn't know what to do. A lot of us be coming in it.
And what I'll say was amazing to me was...
Season 2, welcome back to the L3 Perspective. My name is Glenn Davis. As you know, I'm sitting here with my co-host, Cameron Macias.
Coach Cam.
L3 Perspective, as you know, we talk about life, love, leadership.
As we've talked about in the past, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Because at the end of the day, we do it for you guys.
We are back, Season 2 of the L3 Perspective, Life, Love, Leadership. We have an amazing guest today that I'm looking forward to connecting with, Cara from the Bay Area. Cam will give her an introduction in a little bit. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your continuous support. We appreciate your feedback. Don't forget to follow us on all of the podcast platforms. Looking forward to this conversation today. Get your notepad ready because you might hear a few gems.
Yes, sir. So as you guys already know, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like, because at the end of the day, we do it for you all. And if we don't know what you're interested in, then we're not making a show that's truly for you guys. It's not about us just talking, because we're here to talk no matter what. So today, we have my friend Cara. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for driving out.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, buddy. So she is the author of Burned Out to Lit Up. Okay, we met because we are both a part of an amazing group called the Outlier Project. If you've never heard of it, check it out. LinkedIn, amazing group, amazing people. But Cara and I met for the first time at a soccer game that we had lunch in San Francisco, and I said we have to invite her on the show to talk about how she went from the corporate world to really helping people fight burnout. And so we're going to talk a lot about that today, and so I look forward to it. Welcome.
Thank you. Really, it's my pleasure to be here, and I'm already having so much fun. We barely even started.
There you go.
Okay.
So to start out, tell them a little bit more about your past. Where you started and how you got to writing this book, and then we'll dive into it a little bit more.
Yeah. So I am a Bay Area lifer, as you mentioned, so born and raised. And my first career was as a housing developer. Yep. So I did that for 20 years. The first 15 was at a company, and I was doing mixed use, mixed income infill housing in Berkeley and San Francisco for the most part. It's a pretty pressure cooker, meat grinder type of world. And the expectation around just 24/7 availability, whether or not it's actually useful, is pretty pervasive. And I, like lots of folks, kind of got swept away into some habits that didn't end up being very useful. And once I started adding lots of other pressures into life, like having kids, taking care of aging parents, and all that other stuff, it quickly became really way too much, way more than could fit appropriately in a regular day in life. Yeah. And so in some ways, my story is kind of as simple as that. And I think one thing that'll be relatable to a lot of people is that it just kind of built very gradually, bit by bit, step by step. I just kind of got less and less connected to myself and my health, what mattered to me. At one point, I just remember I just lost track of what was even fun or enjoyable in my life anymore. People would ask me, "What do you do for fun?" And
sounds familiar.
I would just think, what a stupid question. Like, I don't even...
I work, bro.
I mean, I don't even sleep enough. Right. And I had already cut out, like, exercising and time with my friends, and I'd already cut out anything that could possibly have been restorative or resilience building, thinking I could get to the bottom of this to-do list. Yeah. Which, if you're a doer... and people just know you're going to get it done, your to-do list will always be getting backfilled night and freaking day. Yeah, man. And you're never getting to the bottom. Right. And so there were some life skills. I was hoping to have some sort of silver bullet out of this. Finally, there's one thing that I could do differently. Is it. And I was trotting along this really unsustainable pathway until a family health emergency happened with my son, actually. Yeah. And so for me, that's what it took for me to actually just like kind of snap. Really snap to the point where I remember still now to this day, like sitting and sobbing in our friend's house, like uncontrollably, really ugly crying. And the kids are like, ugh, they just ran away like girl is. And, and my friend looking at me and saying, I think you should consider a sabbatical.
Yeah.
And I was like, sabbatical?
What is this thing?
I'm not a professor. I'm just like regular people.
Right.
And all the things we tell ourselves to talk ourselves out of taking proper care of ourselves. Like, well, do I deserve it? I don't have it that bad. You know, like I have a house over my head and I'm alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so we just don't think that taking care of ourselves is important or that joy is important. It just gets shoved so far down. But I was busted enough to where, I mean, I had to. I actually had to in order to get myself back in order health-wise in all the ways, mental, physical, and everything. And so I ended up taking about a 2-year, I didn't know how long it was going to be. I just took a hiatus.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't a proper sabbatical because I did quit my job.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't do it immediately because we were a double earner household and we had a lot of responsibilities.
For sure.
So we kind of made a plan, and I limped my little self to the end of that plan until I could take this time. Oh, that's the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
I mean, but it took me a while.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing is people think, oh, well, I just want to be able to get out of it in 2 seconds. And what we forget is that it takes years. In my case, probably 10 years to get there.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a little time to get out.
Yeah.
So I needed to make a systems change in my mindset, in my habits, in my practices, and my whole way of being. And it was a really scary place to be because I didn't know how.
Yeah.
I didn't quite know what was wrong. And so I didn't quite know what to do about it.
Yeah.
And so it ended up, a lot of what I write about in the book is this passage out of self-neglect through self-care, which is important, but it's not just about getting a massage and spending money on crap. It's about all the way to self-possession, where you're really connected with who you are in your core, and what matters to you in your life, and you make decisions accordingly.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, looking back 10 years later, I can see that I was actually figuring it out in a very experimental way, what that journey is.
Yeah.
And I ended up going back into housing development. Actually, after that 2 years, I opened my own consultancy, though.
Yeah.
Oh, love doing the work much better
You're like,
that way.
I'm the
I can
boss
choose
now.
my clients, choose my projects, engage in ways that I know are really effective, and not just do this sort of silly time-wasting, FaceTiming grind BS that people do, and just be. My clients knew I was going to take excellent care, and that how and when is not really anybody's worry.
Yeah.
And so I love doing it, actually. Did it for 5 more years. And I wound that down a couple years ago as I was winding this up, which is what I'm doing now, which is I'm an author and a coach and a speaker and a workshop facilitator and a trainer, really, like a teacher to people of like, you can reclaim your life.
For sure.
From this sort of hellscape that you've unwittingly created.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Boom.
this is where I am.
Yes. So in that storyline of your life, at what point did you know that you wanted to turn your experience into a book that could potentially, or that is helping people?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was pretty gradual because like I was feeling, you know how you sort of feel called to things?
Yeah.
And a lot of us spend a lot of time smashing away those little small calls because they don't feel practical. They don't feel, responsible. And so we ignore them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that it was just getting louder and louder. I've always loved writing, teaching, connecting with people. In fact, had always mentored people in my entire career, all the way through the real estate development world, which is pretty, it's hard for people to break into. It can be very hard to get into. It's very insular. And so I had actually really loved bringing people in and training them up and being like, you can do this. You can do this work. Like if you're a flexible thinker and a problem solver and all of these other things, like we actually need housing.
Right.
And we need more now. And we need to get past all this BS that says that we can't have it.
Yeah.
And it's actually ruined our region to some degree. We've underbuilt housing, side note, for so long that it's just the supply and demand is crazy and the affordability is crazy. And that's why a lot of people left during the pandemic and never came back. It's tough. But so I just started doing it. I started writing more. And then I thought, I could actually do this for a living. This has always been kind of a little mini dream when I was in high school as the editor of my newspaper.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought, okay. I mean, I knew I was going to write something, and I finally thought I actually have something to say that I think could be really helpful to people.
Yeah.
But the book didn't come first. I created a program called Sabbatical in a Box. As I was ramping up my coaching, I was just starting to do it at the same time as the real estate work.
Yeah.
For the first year, I did them both. And so Sabbatical in a Box is a program that still exists.
That's pretty cool.
It's an online, like a video course now, I have it set up as, that kind of guides people through what happens in the book, but in a little bit more hands-on way.
For sure.
And so that existed first. And then once I did that, I thought, oh, well, now everything is really structured. And I ran a few, back then it was live cohorts. And I ran a bunch of cohorts of people through and really learned, too, from people like right now in this current time, what is most painful,
For sure.
what is most challenging, and what of the interventions that I was working with them on helped the most, like what actually was most useful to them in their lives.
Yeah.
And so it was actually I didn't realize either at the time, that was sort of a beta test, like learning all the things
Exactly.
that made the cut into the book, or all the things that I had learned, but then I had actually worked with people on and knew for a fact worked in a certain order.
Yeah.
And so then the book came after that.
That's where, so anybody I feel that's been in some type of sales environment, those are like those skills that we learn, right? Like those inadvertent beta groups and how to like find the pain points and stuff like that. And it's like, it's always great to have that experience. But then you look back at like what it took and you're like, oh man, I'm glad I got out, you know, in some form or fashion. But that's like a perfect scenario of how you built something that brought the person, and then you really found out what was important to them to then give them something even more tangible that they can use. Love it.
Because there's only so many people you're going to work with in a small group setting like that. But this, I mean, the book is essentially, it's a do-it-yourself program. And it really is set up that way, like to do a chapter a week. Each chapter has reflection activities after that. Ideally, you don't just kind of read and put it in the shelf. Like you actually do them. You think through them. Yes. You write your stuff down. You do some inner mining, and you pull out what needs to be pulled out of you, and you apply them to your life in ways that are really meaningful and useful for you. And I've had a lot of people go through this now and report back that it really has worked. Good. Like it has helped them get to a different place that they didn't think was even they had kind of lost hope was possible.
Yeah.
And just knowing that there's a pathway, and that if you can just sink in, take the time, give yourself grace to do it, that you can, is hugely empowering.
Yeah. For sure.
So I have a question. As you were mentioning that, I was thinking about like so many people today, and we often talk about this, like so many people today don't take the time to sit with themselves, to reflect.
Yeah.
And so from a business aspect, from an author, when you were creating, the layout as far as for an individual to read it, but to really take the time to self-reflect, write down in it. With technology and everything, did the thought cross your mind at any point as far as like, okay, right now, I'm getting this great feedback, but as there are more Gen Zs and my book is continuously being sold, less folks purchasing the book because of everything's so fast-paced now. From a business aspect, did that thought cross your mind, or a similar thought?
Absolutely. I mean, we're all guilty of that. Most of my reading right now is actually Audible.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think maybe for that reason. I mean, I still have kids at home. They're older now, but we all have demands on our time.
For sure.
Outside of what we're doing for work. And at the end of the day, man, I am tired.
Oh, yeah.
And so if I sit in bed and open a book, it's like literally one page. Right. And so what I'll do is I'll put it in my ears when I go running in the morning.
Yeah.
And this book is available in Audible for all you people.
Good. Did you read it?
Who are like me? I did.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always like when the authors read the books.
Yes. And I have on my website, you can actually download all the reflection activities in a little workbook, so that if you're a listener, or even if you're a reader, you've got like a mini sort of journal kind of that you can then track your stuff in. Because it can't just all be done in your head.
Right. Of course.
You actually do need to spend some time with things.
Right.
but the course is, it's an online course with videos, and so that is meant to kind of meet people there.
Right.
For sure.
Another thought I had, which I've never said to anybody yet, is like maybe it should be an app. I literally don't know anything about making an app.
We can connect you with the right people.
People who just want to sell me like crazy on that, maybe don't reach out. But like, I think that could be kind of cool.
Okay.
Because one of the things that people who have worked with me as clients in group coaching and one-on-one, one of the greatest benefits that people get out of working with any coach or mentor of any kind is the accountability.
100%.
Partnership.
100%.
And if it's just up to you, it's real tough to make those lasting changes.
Definitely.
Because in order for something to become a habit, we're going to have to be having this as part of our life for a month or 2 or more. And having a coach or an app or somebody to sort of ping you in the morning, hello.
Right.
Yeah.
How's that new morning ritual going?
Exactly.
That we
you're not
talked
awake
about.
yet?
Did you just wake up and look at your phone for a half an hour, conclude the world was ending, and go back to sleep? Or did you get up, take a walk, have your coffee, do a little journaling or mindfulness practice, prayer, whatever, like we talked about? It's really helpful to have someone who has your back, not in an annoying, naggy way, but in a super friggin' supportive way. They have your back so hard, and you just know, like, they want me to have what I want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't have that person, right? That accountability person. Like, and one reason why I asked that the question is because we often talk about, especially when we're doing leadership workshops or anything like that, is if you are looking to go to that next level, you have to take the time to date yourself. You have to take the time to connect with yourself, and figure out, where the missing links are before you can prepare the links.
100%.
And so that's something that. So I was just kind of curious from an author standpoint, of that question.
So when you're going through so you have this breakdown, at your friend's house, ugly cry.
Ugly cry, really bad.
When you realized where you were at and where you wanted to be at, how did that affect how you operated in your personal life? And so I asked that question because many times, and Glenn and I talk about this a lot in the podcast, is we are afraid to confront that our circle may change, the way that we communicate may change when we reach these impasses, right, in our life. And so I would ask how you navigated that initially, and maybe how you consult your clients on how to navigate those places.
Oh, that question's so good.
Nailed it.
It's so good. It's a huge block.
Yep.
It's a major problem, and usually a hidden one that we're not consciously aware of. Now, you will become consciously aware of it the second, and I do mean the second you decide to start doing stuff a little differently.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are people in your life, not because they're horrible people, but they just are used to you being this you.
100%.
Which is comfortable for whatever reason for them.
Yeah.
If you're a people pleaser, it's because you're doing stuff for them you don't even want to be doing, and they like that.
Yeah.
So there's a number of reasons why people get used to you being this you.
Right.
For sure.
And when you decide to go and stretch your boundaries, learn some things, grow in a way, maybe outgrow the relationship in some ways, there is going to be friction.
100%.
And very close people in my life actually pulled me aside and were like, this is a horrible idea. I can't believe you're taking a break from work. You're destroying your career. You're going to have a resume gap. No one will take you seriously again.
Yep.
You're probably going to be financially ruined. And I was like, oh my God, like the level of anxiety I already had.
Yeah. Thanks for 10Xing that.
And it's just people, just know that people they're just projecting their own stuff onto you.
Yeah.
Literally has nothing to do with you. Never, almost never.
Yeah.
Has anything to do with you.
Yeah.
It's their own, maybe you're triggering some jealousy in them because they aren't at a place that they have the courage to do something. And now you're showing them that it is possible and that maybe it's their choice to remain stuck. Okay, people don't like looking in that mirror.
100%.
So you might be an irritating wake-up call, but that isn't on you.
Right.
And so, and I write about this in the book, you're going to shake out real fast who your inner circle is going to be on this journey.
Yeah.
And I mean real fast.
Yeah.
The people who are like, oh my God, that's amazing. Thank God you're taking care of yourself. I've been, hoping you would.
Yeah.
How can I help?
Yeah.
Those people on the team, on the team. The people who are actively rooting against you or sometimes a little more subtly rooting against you, you'll suss them out too.
Oh, for sure.
And you don't even have to make a big summit meeting out of it. You can just simply walk away.
Yeah.
You can literally just stop hanging out.
Yep.
If you feel like it's a close relationship and you want to have more of a direct conversation, like, this is really feeling not supportive to me and I can't be a part of it. Fine.
Yeah.
But all of that there's so much psychologically in that around boundary setting, around worth, around where our worth comes from, whether it's how much we please other people or whether it's rooted right here and has nothing to do with anyone else. Like, that's part of this journey.
Yeah.
Because part of the reason we get burned out is we spend all of our time and money and energy on crap that's external pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus doing things from a place of a centered self-confidence and self-knowledge.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest in that the burnout piece of what you just said? What are some things that you would suggest that individual who is currently in that space of not liking their job or not, feeling like they're fulfilled in life? What are some strategies or practical tips that you would give or that you've done that have worked for you?
Mm-hmm. First of all, Rome was not built in a day. Okay, we all know this.
Yeah.
And you're not going to just wake up tomorrow and have a whole new lifestyle. So, and that is cool and normal and human. So knowing that it's incremental and just that's how it is actually, I think, pretty affirming for people.
Yeah.
Step one is one thing.
Yeah.
One shift. And I talk about habit formation in the book. There's lots of books all about that, but I've referenced some of them.
For sure.
So an easy way to deal with habit formation is to make a habit swap. So one example, which we touched on a little bit earlier, you could just change one little thing. Like in the morning, instead of phone first thing, which I know a lot of us, including me, have been guilty of in the past.
It'd be there.
You're looking at your email. Now you hate your day, right? So you're like, oh, great. Look at the okay, so you have given away all your power. You've given away all of your autonomy over your day. You've given away your attitude, your approach, your use of energy, how you're going to get into the world, and you're going to be a suspicious and not very fun person at the coffee shop and wherever else you go.
Yeah.
So a very simple one is to swap that first 20 minutes of day with something else.
Okay.
And the something else could be a walk around your block.
Yeah.
It does not, we are not have to move. We don't have to join a thing, get a,
spend any money to do.
No, these are free.
Meditate.
You take a little walk. Yes, you can do, like, I have the Calm app. I'm into it, whatever. They have these little 10-minute daily meditations.
Oh, Calm. I think you said Call. I was like,
Calm.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But there's a lot of different resources,
For sure.
Some people who do prayer, journaling, whatever.
Yeah.
Some sort of mental gym thing.
For sure.
10 minutes of that, 10 minutes of walking. If just swap that out and that's how you start your day.
Yeah.
You can still do your social media and stuff later.
Of
like,
course.
I like to mess around and look at the reels on Instagram and send them to my teenage children. It's fine. And you just got to be very intentional about how and when these fit into your life.
Yeah.
So that your life doesn't get programmed and decided for you.
Yeah.
So that's just a very simple, and it seems so obvious. And when I talk to it, they're like, oh, I already knew that. Yes, and
But you're not implementing it.
most people don't do it.
Exactly. Execution.
But if you just, that simplest thing is just such a shift in how you, and very big picture, it's about what gives us energy and what takes energy.
Yeah.
So if you think about one of the activities in the book too is an energy audit. Write down all the stuff we do in a day. The things that really, really have to happen for survival get exempted. We're not going to mess with them right now. But all the other stuff that isn't really like actual requirement for survival, for me to do for survival, is fair game.
Yeah.
And then I just look at that stuff and I say, okay, which of these things give me energy and which of these things take it?
Yeah.
If your whole day is full of things that take energy, no wonder you're a burned out zombie at the end.
For sure.
I mean, I've been there. It's horrible. And if you just swap out one or just push those down and take one of the things that gives you energy and put it at the top, then when you get done with the day and your to-do list isn't done, which we've already discussed is never going to happen, the stuff that falls off isn't you. Because for most people, what nourishes us is so far down. It's not even on the list. So it falls off every day. So if you just have it on the top, like for me, I like to play my guitar. I go running in the morning. Like I've learned through my 2 years of getting my act back together, what my ingredients for well-being are and what I need to do to keep myself physically and mentally balanced most of the time. Okay, I'm a person. I'm not perfect. Okay, so like I know what those are, and then those are in. Those are top. I mean, the running something outside pretty much every day for me. The guitar, I just wrote a LinkedIn post on this. It did fall off a cliff over the summer, okay? Like things happen, and it's back now.
There you go.
Good.
That's okay. That's part of being a person too.
For sure.
Yeah.
So when you were going the initial part, I like to touch on this a lot because I think a lot of people are maybe potentially in that space. As the matriarch of your family, as a mother, wife, how does that conversation happen? You know, like, hey, this is where I'm at, and this is where I need to be. Like, what? Like, how do you do that? Because I know there's a lot of men, women, husband, wives. I know I was there at one point, and I didn't know what to say. You know, I eventually learned, but I was like, I don't know how to have this conversation without feeling weak or that I'm putting more pressure on my significant other.
Yeah, that not wanting to appear weak is an issue at home and at work. I mean, I remember I was scared to even admit that I was taking this mindfulness-based stress reduction class back when I was in burnout hell, because I thought it would make people think, oh, she can't hack it.
Yeah, because that's what society does.
You know, like she can't, why can't she, you know, we can't trust her.
Yeah.
And by the way, some people do think that.
Yeah, no, I mean for sure. I mean, they're not invalid thoughts, but.
And a lot of people were like, you know, you seem like you're doing a little better this right now. What are you doing? And I told them I was taking this stress class, and they were like, what is it now? I want to know about that.
Yeah.
You know, so you can also be an example.
Like a shining light, yeah.
Yeah, like, okay, folks, we're still doing the work.
For sure.
In fact, the cool thing is, and one of the major theses I like to talk about, we do better work when we're not zombie crazy people.
Correct.
Just so much better work.
Quality's
we're not
way better.
spinning our wheels, doing a bunch of unnecessary junk.
Yeah.
Like, when we take care of ourselves, get nourished and restored all. We actually show up. Now we're patient.
Yeah.
Now we can connect. Now we actually care about other people and can listen to them, because we're not just going nuts all the time in our own head. We do so much. We're more creative.
Yeah.
A stressed brain is not creative. It doesn't solve problems. It spins wheels.
For sure.
So we actually show up so much better. But with my family, I mean, my husband was like, oh my God, anything you need to do to like get yourself into a better place, like I think that would be good for all of us. You know?
Your husband's awesome.
I mean, really. Yes. And my kids were so cute. They were 7 and 9 at the time. And my daughter, the 9, so long ago now, she like wrote me a little note. Dear Mom, happy time off of work. You've worked so hard and you have earned it. And I'm so proud of you. It was so cute.
Yeah.
I was like, I have earned something, you know? And I did tell them. And I tell them about like not, every single detail, but just
of course.
Even like my ups and downs too with this entrepreneurial journey I'm on, which is full of ups and downs.
Oh, yeah.
And because I want them to know and normalize that.
Correct.
This notion, we look at people who've done something cool and we think, well, that's just easy. That I just woke up and it happened. No.
Not at all.
Never. That person went through some level of hell at some point in time.
Yep.
So just knowing that that's natural. And then that way, when it happens to you, you're not like, well, I'm a failure.
For
You're
sure.
like, well, I did see that. No, that was it's very painful.
Yeah.
But I did know it was at some point going to come.
So so burnt out. A lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, are in that season. You're standing in front of, an organization of people or a team of people who have the executive director have called you in because the team's just been experiencing burnout. What are some things that you're saying to them, to that group?
I mean, the statistics are staggering. It depends on which survey you look at or like which year of the last few years, but it's anywhere from 50-something to 80-something % of people reporting having feelings of burnout over the last year. So one of the things that I do, there's a few different activities that we can do that are just help them just get a glimpse of what can happen if they just work on some shifts of attention and mindset. One of them is a version of this energy one that we're talking about. One of them is a version of what brings you joy.
Yeah.
One of the first things that goes on the road to burnout is your connection, is your sense of humor.
Right.
And that's something that
I have a story about that.
But we don't really notice it. And also we tend to think it's not that important. Although all the data out there from the Mayo Clinic, even Stanford University offers an entire course on having a sense of humor, because apparently they think that's important to business and life.
Oh, wow.
And so it's one of the first things that goes. And so what we'll do is like a little mini activity audit on that. And I'll ask people, okay, so when's the last time you laughed so hard that your stomach hurt? Was it this week, this month, this year? I don't know. Why are you asking me this question? And, for a lot of people, we just lose our perspective and our ability to have lightness to anything. That is an essential part of being a person.
100%.
Mother Teresa said, joy is a net of love by which we catch souls. She didn't say hustling and grinding your little butt to death, is a net of love. It's just, that is not the way.
Yeah.
Even people like her, people think, oh, Mother Teresa, she martyred her. No, she gave a crap about having a life worth living and understood that you have to do that. If your cup is empty, you're not offering anything to anyone. So what we'll do is I'll ask people a rapid fire set of questions like, what did you like doing as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult? What's something that you would love to try that's expensive, inexpensive, near, far? It's like and I ask them real quick, and I give them a piece of paper and a pen, and the reason why I kind of hammer them at them is so that they can't do an inner policeman thing, because we censor ourselves. You're about to write I want to learn to ride a motorcycle, but you think I can't. That's not responsible. And you cross it out. So I just have them write it all down. And it's just a big scrabble, and there's 20 or 30 questions. And then I have them narrow it down to what feels most resonant and relevant now, and then down. And then I'll have them do a pairing with a friend where they'll decide the one thing that they're going to invite into their life now and how they're going to do it. So they have them go so far as to make spot Saturday morning.
Right.
Saturday morning is I'm going to give half an hour to this thing. So if I didn't learn an instrument till much later in life, what's step one? Get the instrument. Okay, that's the first Saturday. Step 2, find some YouTube videos or a person.
Right.
Teach me. Step 3, learn how to tune it. And I'll have them map that out. Because when you actually make a plan and put it on your calendar, okay, now you're actually going to do it.
Correct.
And, I preface this with, in order to bring more fun and joy and humor into our lives, we're going to do a little old-fashioned planning. And people are like, planning's so fun. And it isn't, and we do what we plan. And unfortunately, it tends to get planned out.
Yeah.
And so we actually lose the muscle. I don't know if there's a joy muscle, but maybe there is. I think there is. And when you are out of the habit of thinking it's important or prioritizing it, you can't even see it anymore.
Yeah.
There may be the most delightful thing that passes you on the sidewalk, and there you are, just all pissed at the world, and you can't even see it.
Yeah.
Your kid's doing something delightful, and you can't see it because you're super freaked out about this email that no one's going to give a crap about in a week anyway,
For
right?
sure.
You just cannot do it.
Yeah.
So it just kind of rips the blinders off. It's a practice. Everything in life is a practice.
Yeah.
Or like my guitar, one of the teachers says, it's playing. Don't think of it as practice. Think of it as you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
You're a person. You need to play.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy your freaking life. That's what you're here to
Right.
do. And when you're enjoying it, you actually are cool to be around, and your gifts can come out, whatever's unique to you, and be shared with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the homework that comes out of that one. Now, we didn't see, that's not tactical in the sense of like, we're going to talk about time management.
Right.
And that's important too, P.S. Like, we could all learn how to make better use of the hours that we have.
Yeah.
And that's a very tactical conversation, and I can help with that too.
For
but
sure.
I want to start in the heart
Yeah.
because that's where people get like excited about a change.
For sure.
It's a little less easy. I don't get that excited about learning how to like batch my email. Okay, that's important.
Creating new folders and rules.
Yeah, it is, and just learning. Actually, I could have a whole side note here about meetings and how those are ruining everyone's I have a very specific meeting etiquette I did in my housing development days. People knew if you were at a meeting with me, it was a freaking important meeting. And if you were in that room, it's because you needed to be there.
Right.
And we were going to start on time and end on time unless there was a very good reason not to. We were always going to have an agenda and to-dos at the end, and everyone was going to be, their greatness was going to be expected.
Yeah.
And we were going to be doing, if every meeting was like that and we cut off probably 70% of the crap that passes as a meeting, because the thing is, you get into a bad meeting and then everyone's like, on their phone. And then literally no one's there anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, for sure.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room for that kind of stuff too. And we can save ourselves a lot of misery.
Mm-hmm.
And then just all the way to the top, company culture. Are we the kind of culture, like a client I had, where this woman had a friend die? She tells them she's at a funeral. She goes to said funeral, and her boss, who was highly aware that this is what was happening, is like texting and calling her like a mad woman.
Oh, wow.
While she is trying to, deal with something that's highly personal and important in life. And by the way, for something that wasn't important, and to be honest with you guys, I can't think of a work thing that's important enough.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, unless the building is blown up and people died. But even then,
For sure.
what are you going to do about it at the funeral?
For sure.
You can be told in an hour or 5 or
Yeah.
tomorrow.
For sure.
It's like that culture, though.
Yeah.
That starts at the top.
Oh, 100%.
And if you're there, it's real hard to fight the tide. I mean, this client did go back to
Yeah.
she put a hard boundary with that supervisor and was like, okay, the last time that ever going to happen between you and me is today.
Yeah.
Ever. That is so unacceptable.
For sure.
But, the person wasn't very cool to her after that. I mean, it's not like, we have to set boundaries and then we have to see what happens. And that's what I tell people. Like, should I quit? I'm like, I have no idea. You may not be setting appropriate boundaries. So it could be that you're training them to abuse you to some degree. You could try to establish those and see. Those people are like, oh, I could never do it. And then they try it and it works.
It works
and they're
actually
like,
fine.
oh, okay, well, this
Yeah.
is actually fine. The problem was me.
Yeah. Well, it's communication.
And sometimes you do that
Yeah.
and the pushback is so nasty.
Yeah.
But either way, it's important. Do it. You can't
for you.
lose because now this place doesn't give an actual one crap about my life.
Yeah.
They really, really don't. They will call me. I had another friend who was in the hospital and people were hassling her in there. Like she was in there for I think a burnout triggered health emergency.
Mm-hmm.
People were demanding that she do things, work for them while in the hospital bed, you guys.
Holy cow.
At this point, you have to say to yourself, I need to make some serious changes in who I interact with in this life.
Yeah.
This is literally killing me.
For sure.
So those are my choices, and it becomes really stark. And she did make some pretty serious changes after that.
Yeah.
So what the outcomes are, it's hard to know because what your behavior interacts with the world. And either way, though, although it feels really painful, it is a win because it's information. And now you get to say, all right, well, now I know better about what is appropriate to demand in this world.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to do my part. I mean, I'm talking to super performers when I say this. I'm not talking to people who are phoning it in.
Right.
Okay.
The conversations.
I think well, you're right. There are people who will try and use that thing to like, oh yeah, I should feel it. And you're like, but you're not even meeting the minimum mark.
I have a friend who had an employee, it was like a very trust environment. It was remote. Fine. Okay, this person had 2 other remote jobs, you guys, all full time. And guess what?
I just read an article about that.
Guess what they were doing? They weren't doing anything. Yeah. Okay, they were doing none of the jobs, none of them.
Oh wow!
And they were getting paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. And so, I mean, I'm not talking to. Like, if that's what you're doing, you are not one. The people who get burned out are the ones that are putting in.
They care.
Putting in that gear, man.
Yeah.
Because they care about their team. They care about the work they do. They care they care a lot. They may care almost too much.
I mean, I think we do care. So I had a friend of mine who I reached massive burnout in the position I was with probably about 3 positions ago. And I told him, I was like, man, I'm tired of this. Our boss literally said at one point, he walked in my office, he said, hey, Cam, is everything okay? You're not being very Cam lately. And I was working 14-hour days, and I was driving probably about 300 to 500 miles a week because I was what I was doing. And I was like, I'm sorry that I can't be Cam for you this week because I'm working. And so anyways, my friend and I were having this conversation. He said, people like me will watch the world burn. He's like, straight up. He's like, well, we'll sit back. He said, people like you, unfortunately, you'll try and put the fire out. And he's like, and the world needs people like you. But the problem is because of who you are destined to almost always get hurt because you care so much about what's going on around you. And you're the type of person that works harder than most people, which creates that. And it's like a repetitive cycle. Yes. And, luckily I was able to somewhat break the cycle. I don't say entirely. It's just now I'm more selective about where that energy goes. And
amazing.
And so we always talk about it, like, if you're going to do it for someone else, why can't you do it for yourself?
Well, it is harder to do it for yourself.
It's harder too.
Isn't it fun to sit on the sidelines and be like, I know what you should do. But for you, yes, it is harder. But what you've touched on is that's where it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. Should the rest of the world quit being such jerks and like, I mean, I guess, and the only people that know what our needs are, really, are us.
100%.
And it is on us to put those high front and center at the top, make ourselves happy. I mean, I read a study recently. The best thing that a parent can do to help their kids learn to be centered, happy people is to be happy themselves.
100%.
And right? And that goes against, like, people are over here killing themselves, hair's falling out of exhaustion, trying to make sure the kid has everything they could ever possibly maybe need or want. Like, okay, and that ultimately is not helping in a way you hope.
For sure.
So
you're just teaching them to recycle all over again.
And this is true in any relationship. Yeah. You have trouble in your partnership, at work. This is where the self-reflection is really important, and we have to take responsibility. And I don't mean blame.
Yeah.
It's not negative. Right. I mean responsibility. Because if it's our responsibility, then we also have the power to do something about it. We actually have the ability to respond in a different way.
Yeah.
To set a boundary, to say no. And I know a lot of people who the mere thought of saying no to even something simple just feels like, no freaking way.
Oh, yeah.
It can feel, if you're not raised, I mean, I wasn't raised learning boundaries or knowing that I could have them.
Yeah.
I had to learn that later.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's scary at first.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get used to it, and you start with, I call it low stakes boundaries, very simple things. The person at the grocery store asks you if you want to round up.
Nope.
For the animals. You say no. That's like your villain era right now. But whatever it is that
that's a great
you
example.
need to do to just like not be so, great person all the time. I'm not telling you to go be a bad person, but just like start to do it. Right. Someone asks you to do something on the weekend that your gut knows, your body knows, your heart, your armpits. You don't want to do it. Well, that's the other thing. We ignore our bodies. Listen to them. Yeah. They usually know more than what our head is about. Well, ask yourself, do I really want to do this? And then put your hand on your stomach and be like, no, I don't want to do that at all.
Yeah.
The ability to tell a person, Aunt Jean, I don't want to. You don't even have to give a reason.
For sure.
That's when you start getting into varsity level boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
When you stop making excuses for living. Like, well, I would, but I'm so... You don't have to tell them any freaking thing. Yeah. You just say, I'm not available that day.
Yep.
And likewise for work. Like, you block out your 7 to 8 a.m. hour to go get your, run on or your swim or whatever. And someone starts trying to put stuff on there that's not even important. It better be a real emergency if you're coming onto that time.
Yeah.
And it never is, you guys. Almost never. And so if someone does that, it's on you to be like, I'm afraid I have a conflict at that time. Yeah. And you don't need to tell them, it's at the swimming pool where I'm going to go be healthy and try to show up here in a cool state. You don't have to. Everyone doesn't need to agree and approve of every single thing you freaking do. Yeah. And if you're waiting for that, that's never coming.
For sure.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. So a lot of things impact life, right? Situations, people being burnt out, trying to navigate through life's journey, life happening within life. There's so many people who have a lot of love in their heart, right? Tied to passion and joy and doing the thing that what they're searching for to connect them to a purpose. And in leadership, there are people like yourself who are authors and entrepreneurs, right? And leading people. Life, love, or leadership. Pick one of those 3 words, and if you could just share what's on your heart.
Love. You got to love yourself hard and first. If you're going to have love for anything, for anyone around you, for your work, for your life, people think it goes the other way and it doesn't. You have to learn here. Yeah. Because if you don't, the love you give is going to be very grasping. It's going to be very demanding that other people do things for you in ways you like to feed you, your hole in you. Yeah. So loving yourself, warts and all, which we all have, is going to give you a pretty unshakable foundation so that you know that you're going to be able to navigate the things in life and leadership that are inevitable and hard. Yeah. If you're leading, I don't care what you're doing. I don't know anybody who's just doesn't have a big basket full of challenges that they're trying to deal with right now. Yeah. I was recently teaching my teenagers to drive. That's not easy, man. I don't. Okay, is it an emergency? No. Is it kind of stressful? Totally. Okay. Whatever. We just all have things. Right. And if your cup is solid and full of love, and also you can decide how you're going to respond to a thing. What's it coming from? What's the motivation of it? Someone who has a foundation of love for what they do and their team and everyone's well-being and shared success and excellence would never micromanage. That person would never do that because that's ridiculous. That's what insecure people who can barely even manage their own lives do. No. Okay? So that's just one example. I don't know. It's so foundational.
It's very fitting. I appreciate it.
That's 3 in a row, by the way.
What's that?
That's 3 guests now that have chosen love.
Yeah. Oh, I'd like to see the statistics.
Yeah, there we go. So before we wrap up, Great answer, by the way. I want you to use your book so you can tell people about it, the camera. So tell people where they can find you, about your book, where they can buy it, listen to it, and then your program, everything. This is your limelight time.
Well, and thank you all so much for having me. It's just so much fun to be doing this in person with you. What a treat. Yeah. This book, which is going to have its 1-year anniversary next month. Whoop, whoop. You can find it on Amazon, in Kindle, paper, Audible, and then just anywhere else. Barnes & Noble, Target, just online. And my website, carahouser.com. That's where you can find me for coaching and workshops, speaking engagements for your organization, company. The course, Sabbatical in a Box, you can find there too. And as far as social media, I'm on Instagram a little and on LinkedIn a lot.
I'm about to say LinkedIn's
so I would love to see you there. Come connect with me, and I talk about all the things we're talking about today and everything kind of in the realm of it all the time. It's really important to me. Yeah. So, yeah, I would love, love, love to connect with each and every one of you.
Sweet.
Awesome.
All right, y'all. Well, as we take it out, don't forget, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We appreciate you, Cara. And
Thank you.
We'll see y'all later.
Absolutely.
Peace.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is...
I was afraid, I didn't know what to do. A lot of us be coming in it.
And what I'll say was amazing to me was
Season 2, welcome back to the L3 Perspective. My name is Glenn Davis. As you know, I'm sitting here with my co-host, Cameron Macias.
Coach Cam.
L3 Perspective, as you know, we talk about life, love, leadership.
As we've talked about in the past, like, love, share, subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Because at the end of the day, we do it for you guys.